Hey guys! Hey guys! How you doing? Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 start for the show. Nice to see everyone today. I'm back. I've been traveling a bit. Comic-Con was in town last week, so missed a couple of shows. But so glad to see everybody again. And today I'm here with Jeremy. Jeremy, want to explain a little bit about what you do?
My role here at OPG is the Data Solutions Manager, which means that recently most of my work has gone into developing our internal data dashboard. I also spend a whole lot of time just like staring at streams of Twitch viewership numbers. Not streams in the sense of like a live stream on Twitch, but like numbers going down a screen.
So you basically live in the Matrix.
I observed the Matrix from outside.
Like that guy
Yeah.
who then betrayed everyone.
Well, they needed to be betrayed.
But I wonder who's going to kill you with that giant gun eventually? Because it wouldn't be me. Seems like something Janessa might do.
That's possible.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure that. We'll figure out who's going to kill Jeremy later. But from our perspective, data is a huge thing that we look at OP Group. It's really difficult, as you guys know from any situation on Twitch if you stream, it's really difficult to kind of understand how this all works and what these numbers mean, and ultimately, what are the numbers that you see on that screen teaching you or telling you about your performance, what you're doing, how it works. You know, for us, this is our whole business. We need to work with broadcasters who perform really well, who, you know, overperform basically when they're doing things like a sponsored stream, but in general just have really solid audiences and things like that. And because, you know, we're not a massive company, like we're a small company, we can't personally get to know every streamer in the universe. So a lot of times the data is the first place where we discover a streamer, and then we build the relationship with them once we've seen some things in the data that are exciting. Thank you for the bits, Xanattax. Nice to see you. And nice to see everybody, right? Well, that's mostly our people right there on the chat. So make sure you're chatting so we can say hi to you. But yeah, so when we look at numbers, you know, where do you start? Like, what's kind of the approach?
The first thing that we notice when we're looking at a channel is, well, obviously how many average viewers they've had recently, but you know, there are a lot of channels in every bucket there. Like even now there are dozens of channels with more than 1,000 viewers regularly, and you know that wasn't the case several years ago. But the things that we look at immediately are, you know, what games has this person been playing? If we want to start working with someone, we need to know, you know, do they play Fortnite all the time? I mean, different opportunities are available for people who just play Fortnite than for, you know, like some of our other clients who play a different game almost every day. And even looking at anyone, just understanding, you know, what games they're playing and how they're performing across games to then have a good idea of what their audience is. We also, in order to gauge the health of a channel, the biggest things that I look at are the current rate of follower change. You know, how many followers are you adding every single day, every month? And one of the things that Jen especially has looked at a lot in the past is the shape of a viewership curve during a stream, where we like to see not a whole bunch of spikes like all your viewers came from a raid in the middle of the stream, and you know it says you averaged 350 viewers, but that was really because you had 3,500 for 5 minutes because they came in and left. But if you know really entertaining streamers that are able to retain audiences, they actually continue gaining viewers just about until when they're finishing, or they've learned when a good time to stop is, because we've also found people that, you know, they probably stream a couple hours more than their they have the energy for in the day, and you can see that every day at when it's about an hour towards the end of the stream, it starts to taper off. So, maybe you could be using that time to rest or go do something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing too where this industry, this media is unique, right? Like, this is not a problem that Conan O'Brien has. Like, you wouldn't imagine, it's like, oh, Conan O'Brien's just going to do a 6-hour show today, and then Conan O'Brien has to be freaking funny for 6 hours. If he was doing that every day, that's really hard. He has that, like, tight hour or 2 hours. I don't watch his show. Screw you, Conan O'Brien. But he has that tight, focused time that he's ready for, and so, they build the whole thing around creating excitement for that time and then turning it off at a point where you're excited to watch it tomorrow. If your channel starts to feel sleepy, towards the end, or low energy, and your viewership kind of starts dropping off because, hey, I mean, you're not being entertaining anymore, right? Or not as entertaining. That's a bad sign. Like, that's not going to take you where you need to go. Like, if Conan O'Brien 1/3 of every one of his shows was just like not great, like, that wouldn't go well for him.
Yeah, you don't watch the sequel if the first half of a movie was a whole lot of fun, but then by the end you were ready to be done watching it.
Yeah, unless it's Short Circuit 2, because.
But Short Circuit 2 is a standalone excellent film.
It really. I mean, if the robot was different, it has almost nothing in common with Short Circuit 1. We could actually just do a show on Short Circuit 2, I think, but we won't. So we have a question, and guys, if you have questions for us, you can do #AskOPG. You can do it either in the chat, or it's better if you do it on Twitter, because then we can pop it up over here. See, I'm really not good at this. Also, look at that product placement. And we'll answer it. So the question here is, what do you use to pull numbers from Twitch, and do your clients have to offer you admin or editor rights to enable retrieving sensitive counts like subs, etc.? It's a great question. You want to chat about?
There are some things that are now only available if you log in as a Twitch channel. Where there used to be a few things where if you were the owner of a team on Twitch and the team shared analytics, you could view things like unique viewers in a stream. But now, as Twitch has come out with some better analytics on the partner dashboard and the stream summary pages, that you have to log in as that channel. So occasionally we have to request that a client or somebody else that we're working with at the time takes a screenshot or copies and pastes a few numbers from us. But most of what we do is publicly available things via the Twitch API. We make sure people are online. We get the number of viewers and followers that they have, and we create a larger picture out of that so that we can try to present a whole story to the sponsors.
Absolutely. Hey, Daddy Steve. Hey, Pool Shark. Hey, Cross. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, and this is totally true. There's sort of two places that most of our data comes from. One is from interacting with our clients directly, so we can ask them for stuff, because the only alternative to that would be getting their username and password, but that is obviously not something you should ever share with anybody, even us, so we don't ask for that information. We just ask them to pull it when we need it. And the other is the Twitch API. And can you explain just very briefly what the hell an API is for people like me who just hear it all the time?
And API stands for Application Programmer Interface. In this case, it's served over HTTP requests. So just like when you type in a URL at the top of a web page, you're sending an HTTP request, and it's serving you back with the information about a web page. Twitch offers endpoints that don't serve back web pages, but serve back strings of data objects that we then parse and convert into usable information for us.
For me, because I am not any sort of data wizard or person who knows what most of those words meant. An API is like or the Twitch API is like a fire hose of numbers, and it just goes everywhere. It doesn't make any sense. So you kind of have to put your own apparatus on it to focus it and make it do what you want, because it is just a fountain of information, and then it's what you can do with that information that makes a difference. So Skullstream asks, what are you using the data for? What kind of recommendations have you made in the past to your clients? Do they listen? But actually, there was one more question from Xanatax before that, because we'll get to that one. Skullstream is a good question. Does OPG have a custom OPG bot on Twitch, or just back-end stuff? Do we use chat bots, like anything like that?
We do have a bot account that Barry helps with sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. For, some custom stuff, we do use that, but all of the stuff that I work at is just back-end. I have in the past developed bots, but they don't, it's not the focus of my work right now.
Yeah, and some of the stuff, you have to be careful too, because some of the stuff that you would be collecting with a bot is against the Twitch TOS on how you would use the data, so we always want to be very respectful of that since we're on the platform. Hey Maximilian, how you doing? Hey Bernsey. Many names, Greg, nice to see you. Johnny Scar, always a pleasure. So to go back to that question, well, I can't see it, let me scroll up here. Oh, unable to connect to chat. It says, like, what kinds of data do you typically look at, and
what recommendations do we make,
and do they listen?
When I first started at OPG a couple years ago, one of the things that I did was I wrote up kind of monthly reports about what's been working for clients' channels, made some real in-depth analysis about, like, is this game good for your channel? Are the times good for your channel? And sometimes people read them, I think, but it wasn't the best way that we could serve the clients. That when we're working with people, they've got a pretty good idea of what they want to do, and it's working for them already, and we're there to help them with business things and help them to maximize their opportunities. If they have questions, we'll do our very best to answer. But suggesting what people do beyond kind of giving an idea of, this game coming up looks like it could be good. You might want to check it out. It might be good for your channel. And then they can take it or leave it is about all we do with that. Or occasionally we'll get the question of, do you think I should stream an hour earlier in the day, or things like that. And then we'll look at numbers like the shapes of viewership curves and where the big influxes are and where their direct competitors are streaming in relation to them. And we'll give them some sort of recommendation. Usually we would never suggest that someone changes by more than an hour on either end quickly, because then you're like a whole new stream all of a sudden.
Yeah, I would say, part of it, like it's different with different clients, right? We manage 43 people. They're all very different from each other. Some of them are very data focused and, even have a background as like a coder or programmer, things like that, where they've used data like this. Some of them are just pure entertainers and literally know nothing about the data except they see the numbers and the big one is good. So we pull a lot of information and synthesize it ourselves to, try to see sort of what's going on. If we see somebody who's struggling, but they're not super tech savvy or data savvy, we'll kind of translate it into a way that makes sense for them. It's like, hey, maybe this game's not working, or this time's not working. Maybe you should just look at some other stuff rather than, showing them all the stuff we see. So we end up doing a lot of back-end analysis that we then translate into, more friendly advice. The Pool Shark has a really good question. I recently started streaming on Facebook. My channel is blowing up much faster than I expected, so congrats. That's awesome.
It's true. I actually encountered his channel working today.
Awesome.
So, yes, his channel is blowing up rapidly. I recognized the name immediately when it came into chat.
Sweet. Well, we're glad to have you, man. And part of this is that we're doing our research on, we don't just look at Twitch. We look at Facebook. We look at Mixer. We look at YouTube Gaming. We look at YouTube. We look at everything we can get our hands on, because I think your question is really good. I've been having companies contact me for sponsored posts, and I have absolutely no idea how to calculate the channel worth when they ask for a fee. Is there a good formula? So there is a good formula on Twitch that we've worked on for years, and we're very confident that the quotes and the pricing that we use are effective and correct. But we haven't yet done any work on Facebook. Like, we haven't done any sponsored work with broadcasters or anything like that. A viewer on Facebook, we know for sure, is going to be different than a viewer on Twitch. It's going to be different than a viewer on Mixer. People on different platforms are just different, right? Like some of the people who are watching you on Facebook, like they're just scrolling through their feed and they see you, and you may count as a viewer on them just flicking by you. Now, on Twitch, to be a viewer, like there's no situation where that can happen. So every human being who's in your channel, like literally clicked and intended to be there. So right there, it's possible your viewership on Facebook's going to be higher than it is on Twitch, but the quality of the viewers becomes a question. And that's something that we really need to test to be able to give you a good answer to your question. So, I mean, a TLDR of it too is if you're having those conversations and you want to test it out, feel free to send us an email and kind of give us some of the details. We can, sort of guess, provide like our thinking on what it should be. If you're willing to sort of provide the results and how you did, it would be valuable information for us, because as we go forward, 100% there's going to be more sponsored streaming on Facebook, on Mixer, on those places. So figuring out what those audiences are worth relative to Twitch makes a big difference, because, if we use the exact same calculation and it would be $1,000 on Twitch, but the viewers on Facebook end up being worth half, but you're still charging $1,000, right? You're basically charging double, but we don't know that yet. So, this is a big part of where the data analysis comes in, and, how we figure out pricing and things like that. So yeah, feel free if you're interested in doing that to just drop us some details, and you can DM me on Twitter if you don't have my email address. I'm happy to take a look as soon as we can. But yeah, it's a really good question, and we are curious as to what the answer is. Did we cover all of the question that was on the screen?
Yeah.
Sweet, we covered all of it. So, kind of going back to the statistics we look at, one of the things that we talk about too is, and I was literally just talking about it, active viewers versus potential viewers. And this is a concept that we actually don't hear talked about outside of OPG very much, so it's something that we wanted to share with you. Can you explain what the hell I'm talking about?
Okay. On Twitch, the peak viewership on a day is, somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million viewers. And it's higher than that, but we only count channels that have 10 viewers or more. So there's a plankton mass at the bottom.
They're important and valuable.
They are important
people.
and valuable plankton.
Josh Tucker, thank you for the subscription 3 months in a row.
We don't actually count that in that number. So people may hear it. So you look at a Streamlabs report that's talking about how many streams are on Twitch and what's grown, what the growth is. Their numbers might not match things that I quote, because we don't actually count streams with fewer than 10 viewers.
And there's a reason for that. That's not that they are worthless plankton.
No.
It's actually.
I was more referring to the mass at the lower end than a valued judgment. It's because if I include that, the volume of data is gigantic.
Yeah.
And it's a huge amount of data that doesn't add up to a whole lot of meaningful results for the kinds of things that we look at.
Yeah.
But with that, this is the number of, those are the active viewers. Those are the people that are currently watching Twitch. But beyond that, there's a larger pool of people that I refer to as potential viewers. And a potential viewer is anybody who, could possibly be watching Twitch right now. And
human being with a computer or a phone.
With a computer or phone, maybe has knowledge of Twitch, has watched Twitch in the past, and they would have different probabilities of viewing associated with the individual. And we don't know what those are, but if we were to say that on average, that the average potential viewer has a 10% activation rate, then we would be saying that there are 10 times as many potential viewers as there are active viewers. So potential viewers would include anybody with a Twitch account or anybody who visits Gamepedia, so anyone who browses information about a video game, lots of things like that. But there only a certain percentage of them are activated, and I think that it's important to think in terms of, as a channel, especially for smaller channels, like what are we doing to activate viewers is one of the things that I'm trying to wrap my head around right now.
Yeah, and this is a very common concept across any sort of marketing, any sort of entertainment. Like there are all these people that could potentially watch the Super Bowl. How many of them actually will sit down and turn on the TV and watch? If you own the Super Bowl, your goal is to get all of them to do that. So what percentage are you able to do? That's how many people you can activate. And people have different levels of qualification for this. We talk about quality of viewers, quality of customers a lot in other contexts, but as the quick refresher, I'm not a huge football fan, so I'm not super duper likely to watch the Super Bowl. However, the qualification goes up because I know a lot of people that have parties to watch the Super Bowl. So I'm much more likely to watch the Super Bowl for different reasons than I am a random playoff game or something like that. So understanding where you can find quality potential viewers, and then once you understand where they are, which is why people collect social media followings, because those are those very highly qualified potential viewers. Once you know where they are, how do you get them to come into your stream every single day as much as possible, stay as long as possible, ultimately, tip, sub, or participate in the channel the way that you want?
Yeah, some ways that we know work for activating viewers is like social media. Tweeting is a big thing, but the quality of a tweet matters. So if you automatically send the title of your stream out as part via Twitch when you go live, and it's an impersonal thing about, something about the game that you're playing, that, and not adding extra value, it's different to, maybe like when you were streaming a lot of games, you told a lot of stories, right? So an example would be you give a little hint towards a story that you're hoping to have the opportunity to tell in that broadcast, or say, you guys will never guess what happened in my day. Clickbait is considered a bad word, but that's literally what tweeting that you're live is. Yeah. You are literally baiting clicks. So if your tweet that you're going live isn't tailored towards baiting clicks, then you're missing some of that opportunity.
And speaking of baiting, here's Diction. Hey man, how's it going? It's nice to see you. Guys, if you don't know Diction, he is one of our clients, just an absolutely awesome dude. And I'm excited because I get to see you next week, right? I'm pumped up. Go to the Bay Area. And if not, we'll figure something out. But yeah, like, it is really important to think about where and how you're announcing things. The more clickbaity your stuff is, the better it works, right? That's why all those stupid sites do clickbait, because it works. It's like, you'll never believe the 10 reasons why, whatever happened.
And you'll never guess what happened next.
Yeah. So the 10 things that your boss won't tell you about how to get the thing, and the one thing they will lie to you about, click here, right? So making sure like that content, that presentation is good. It's all the same as marketing. You're trying to take those people who are predisposed to watching your channel, and you're trying to, basically beat them into or convince them to come see you, right? And yeah, announcing on Discord is great. Again, like somebody who's in your Discord chat is a very highly qualified potential viewer.
Mm-hmm.
They like you enough to be in your frickin' Discord chat. Like, you know they're probably a gamer. You know they probably watched your stream before. Like, they are likely to come back.
Literally was the next thing on my list. Thanks, Xanattax.
All right. Well, we're done here. Show's over. Thanks, Xanattax. Well, what else we got?
I think that I want to kind of talk about who we know is good at activating potential viewers.
Well, Diction, obviously.
Diction is fantastic at activating potential viewers.
And we're not just saying that because
every time
he is actually good at it.
Well, every time I see he comes up on my Twitter feed since he changed his Twitter name to Your Boy.
Your boy.
Like I actually read what the tweet is instead of I just scroll by almost everything. Like, oh man, your boy's tweeting. I'm checking that out.
Oh, that link is wrong. We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because another topic we've talked about in the past, and we'll probably talk about again, is rebranding your channel. And Diction is a person who did that. He used to be Eat My Diction 1, the one is silent, and did a full rebrand across all his social media platforms fairly recently, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool how it works out. But another topic for another day. We could talk about Nick pretty much all day long, right? And I usually do. We don't get a lot done here. I got a giant poster of him behind my desk. It's partially nude. It's pretty great. Lots of pictures of Marla. And
I just watched that GIF where he's going over and over again. It's my desktop background.
No, but
there are some channels that are just awesome at activating viewers, and those channels tend to be esports events and like developer streams. So, and how we know that they are really good at activating potential viewers is that we see when they're live. So when E-League is live, there are 80 to 100,000 people watching Twitch that wouldn't be watching Twitch then, and they're all watching Counter-Strike, right? When Bethesda did that Fallout 76 bait stream thing,
Yep.
it just went viral, and they brought people to Twitch and for this game announcement, and they found ways to activate viewers who may have a very low percentage of being a viewer on just any other day, but they brought them into the platform, and their channels shoot way up to the top of the list quickly, and there's these event channels and announcement channels that tend to be much better at that than everyday individual streamer channels that are broadcasting every day. Part of it is the amount of effort and planning that goes into one of those broadcasts, right? That they're putting in a ton of effort into just activating potential viewers and making sure that everyone knows that they should be there. To use the Conan O'Brien example we were using earlier, throughout the day on the network, there's a 10-second commercial in the middle of the real commercials that says, "Don't forget, Conan is live at, I don't know, 10 o'clock? I have no idea."
we literally know nothing about him. Though I was at the same restaurant he was last week. That was weird.
His faces are all over the airport
Yeah.
in San Diego. I learned a lot about him.
That's how you create active viewers.
Yeah.
Is by exposing new people to Conan O'Brien, who exposes himself all the time. Deathridge, thank you so much for the host, man. Nice to see you. Guys, if you don't know Deathridge, another one of our clients. Apparently, we're only getting the Ds today. Sorry about that, Jeremy. But nice to see you. Definitely check out his channel as well. And yeah, I mean, another part of it is they have big social platforms. They've spent all this time building up these audiences, but they do only stream these sort of small segments, you know? And I think there's something streamers forget about the value of not being around, like the value of being missed or wanted, because if you stream every day for 6 or 8 hours, it's pretty much all you can eat. It's all you can eat, Deathridge, you know, every single day. So I kind of know I can dip in and I can dip out, and that a lot of times can teach people to be a little bit more casual about when they make the decision. But if E-League is only on for 4 hours every month and you want to watch E-League, your options are very limited. So it does really focus people. But you know, it's another thing too. Like we see Ko do it with his 100% playthroughs. You know, start talking about an event. Like you plan something you're going to do, whether even if it's just playing a game that's coming out. Guys, you know, We Happy Few's coming out next month. I'm really excited about that game. Day it comes out, I'm streaming it, I'm playing the whole thing through. I want you guys here. Talk about that every day, building up to it. Maybe play games that are thematically linked or interesting and related. Get people excited about it, and then that day you'll notice the boost. It's work, right? Like it's definitely work. But you know, this is what a lot of people do with their lives in marketing is it's like, hey, we've got this game coming out. Well, if people aren't talking about it, it doesn't really matter. So there are all these people that are just out there trying to get you talking about this game ahead of time, right? So we got a question from Dominator51. It says, what are the main analytics I should be focusing on as I'm growing my channel? We get a bunch of numbers as creators, but knowing what to do and what their significance is can be confusing. Well, amen.
The first thing I would say is it really depends on how the size of your channel right now. But if I were to boil everything down to one thing that you should care about, and it'll kind of segue into some of the stuff we're going to talk about in a bit, is follower growth. That the number one thing that you can do for your channel, or the number one measure of you doing things right, is gaining followers. Not necessarily the amount of followers that you have right now, but how many followers you are currently gaining it means that you are somehow getting in front of more people and convincing them to click on the follow button. That is the number one metric for how a channel is going in my mind.
Yeah.
That you can't sell a follower count on Twitch as much as you can on Twitter, right? Because it's about concurrent viewership. But if you are gaining followers rapidly, your concurrent viewership will at least be steady, you know, or going up.
Yeah, and the way that it works, what's really interesting about it is it's a good pulse. Like if you're trying to get a report card on the last 4 hours of your stream, looking at how many people followed you tells you two things. First, it tells you that you had a good amount of new people that were activated. People came into your stream for some reason. Then ask yourself, what was that reason? Did my tweet get retweeted by somebody awesome and so it got out to 1 million people? Did I post on Reddit and some people came from that? Did I just have like an insane show and I was so funny and brilliant that I was on fire? Like, what did that, right? Because that's what you want to repeat. But the other part of it is, so when we look at acquisition in video games, right, in marketing, so we say the first thing you're doing is you're exposing someone to something. You're creating an impression, right? You see the sign that has Conan O'Brien on it. Yep. That's an impression. It doesn't mean you thought about it or you did anything. You just saw it, right? So getting someone to go from having an impression to an activation, which means, okay, well, I'm now going to watch Conan O'Brien. I'm going to check his show out, right? So then you go do that. That's the next step, right? That's like somebody seeing your promotion or whatever and then clicking on your stream and coming into it. Now that they're there, the lowest friction, most meaningful thing they can do to interact with you without pressure, right? Like there's pressure in talking in the chat or things like that, is hit the follow button, right? It's a vote. It's a vote of confidence. Like, I like what I'm seeing. Maybe you made me laugh. I want to see this again. Like, I'm going to hit that follow button and hit that follow button if you're not following us. I'm going to hit that follow button so that I can repeat this experience. So you've gone from, an impression to an acquisition to an engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And that engagement is a really good indicator of a person who's likely to come back.
Yeah.
And so if you're not getting a lot of those, that's okay too. But you need to ask yourself, why not? Because if you're not seeing those follower counts go up, if you're not seeing people, hit that button, then why? Like there is a reason. It's not just bad luck or something. And you kind of have to think that through.
Somewhere in that pipeline, there's a disconnect, right? From the potential viewer to viewer who's in your stream and clicks follow, and then there's the pipeline continues to used bits or tipped or even just chatted in chat or eventually a long-term subscriber. Like that, there's this whole pipeline that we can work viewers through, and there'll be drop-offs everywhere. But if you're not seeing a lot of people click the follower button, then it's a good sign that you need to be focusing on the earlier parts of that pipeline.
Absolutely. And Daddy Steve asks a good question. Are empty follows, follower that doesn't visit the stream again, a concern? I mean, I wouldn't say they're a concern as much as they're a reality. Like some amount of people are just like, you buy a video game, some of them you play one time, you never play it again, right? Like the game company would prefer that you play that game every day for the rest of your life, get a tattoo, name your firstborn son after the, main character. Like they want you to be as engaged as possible with their title. Some amount of people just don't care or didn't like it or didn't grab them. So as a streamer, and Deathridge and Diction are good examples of this because they've been streaming for a long time. They've been doing this for a long time. So some of the, they have large follower counts and they don't necessarily see like thousands and thousands of viewers because that large follower count has accrued over time. And some of those people stopped watching Twitch. Some of them literally have died. Some of them, want to watch a different streamer or a different game or whatever. Some amount of those people, they're old. That's it. Yeah, they're just old. Yeah, and they're gonna hold each other. It's gonna get gross in here, so you may want to just sub to the channel and see what happens. See what happens when you sub to the channel. What will Diction and Deathridge do? But that's just a reality, right? Like you watch Game of Thrones, it's season 6 of Game of Thrones. Like, man, so are they ever gonna get the fucking whatever? Like, I'm done, and like it just happens. It's part of life. So you got to factor into the equation that you're gonna lose. Your followers over time are gonna keep going up, but it doesn't necessarily directly track to your concurrence. You want to pay attention to this. Thank you, Deathridge. What's going to happen if people sub? Well, Deathridge is going to find out. Let's get Deathridge a jacket, please. A classy jacket for a very classy subscriber and client.
So with followers, followers do they do an interesting thing because looking at a follower list is a prime discovery path for viewers who are activated by Twitch as a platform. So, we talked about channels activating viewers that are coming directly to their channel, but there are other discovery paths. There are other ways, and the majority of viewers on Twitch are there for the platform. And part of the reason I say this, and it's like, no, they're there for me. Yeah, well, maybe they are there for you when they're there. We see this because the largest streamers on Twitch don't impact the total volume of viewership in the way that esports events and game announcements do. So
that's kind of what you were talking about earlier, where when E-League is on, Twitch is bigger. Like there are just like 100,000 new people that aren't normally on Twitch.
Yeah.
And we know this because we watch and see how many people are on Twitch.
Yeah. But so then individual streamers, or if you're broadcasting every day, you have the viewers that you're activating yourself via social media or from Discord, or they're just the people that really only watch Twitch for you. Like, my mom might watch me every day.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah. Probably not. She's got better things to do. But a follower list is if you're the guy that says, you know what, I've just got a few minutes, I'm sitting at my desk, I realized I have my headphones on, but I'm not actually listening to any. I do this often.
Me too.
I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna turn on a stream. So I use the Twitch desktop app at home, and the first thing I do is I just look at the list of people that I'm following and I click on one of those. So having a large follower list is really good for that discovery path. But like we said earlier, that follower growth is what we think is the most important, and that's because what Omid was saying, like, you know, some of these people are actually dead, like, or, you know, they're from accounts that haven't been on Twitch in years.
Or they forgot their password.
Yeah,
they don't know anymore.
They are just, they're antiquated. Yeah, they're this mass that is accumulated, but it doesn't mean that, but their activation percentage is much, much lower now. So the most important followers that you have are your followers from the last 2 or 3 months. And if you can say, well, in the last 2 or 3 months, I accumulated 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 followers, whatever. Great, you know, these are people that we're continually engaging new people. And we have a large mass of followers who have a high activation percentage. And I think I talked too long about that.
Let's focus on the most important thing. Since we have all this data about Twitch, and we know that some of the people that watch Twitch are dead, can you use that data to tell me when I'm gonna die?
I think that's a secret we're keeping it from.
Crap. It's been a great show. I may or may not see you next week. Ask Jeremy. He'll be tweeting about it. But again, there's some clickbait. Will I even be alive for the next show?
Yeah.
But yeah, that got pretty dark. Deathridge said a nice thing, which is that, you know, having all these viewers like that, you know, from over time means that you have more people to show what you're doing now, right? Mm-hmm. And in the game industry, because I've worked on some games that have been around for a while, like EverQuest. You know, when I got to Sony Online, EverQuest was like 12 or 13 years old, so that's an old-ass game. And so there's a lot of people who played EverQuest and aren't playing anymore. But guess what? We have their email addresses and things like that. So what we would do periodically, and you'll notice this when you go through your spam folder, we would do something called a win-back, which is you create a specific marketing campaign. You ask yourself, what are these people that are no longer playing the game? Or in this case, what are the people that are no longer watching me doing? Because they still follow me on Twitter. They still follow me somewhere. Maybe I could get them to come back. I can entice them with something. And, you know, in an MMO, it's going to be like free shit. You know, come play again for a few hours, you know, do some quests, you get a mount, you get a thing, whatever it is. That is highly effective. So, you know, looking at ways that you could reactivate, you know, sort of, we call them lapsed viewers, would have a lot of value.
I literally met you as part of a chain reaction from being won back from an EverQuest email.
Yeah. Well, oh man, I should introduce you to the guy who almost certainly wrote that email. He works at Amazon now, but he's an awesome dude, and he lives down the road.
Had something to do with a new EverQuest game that was coming out, I think.
Oh yeah, that thing. How did that go?
Soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
Anyway, Deathridge says, with a huge follower number, a lot of the times you technically end up with less followers for that day, but new follower growth is what matters. Yeah. When you have as many followers as you do, Deathridge, and you've been doing this for as long as you have, you are going to get negative follower counts from things like Twitch purging inactive accounts or things like that may make you feel really sad. But, you know, in general, when they're purging those accounts, it's because they're either fake, they're so antiquated that, you know, they're not doing anything, that kind of thing. They're just trying to clear sort of database room.
And they do it in chunks. So, like, when we see that, we don't necessarily say, well, you had, you know, 450,000 followers, and now you have 435,000 followers. So we can do a little bit of dive in there and see that like more than 20,000 of those accounts were just deleted. That has nothing to do with an individual performance. And maybe from a high level number, it won't look great, but we have the ability to drill down and figure that out. But unless they started doing it more slowly, which would be really annoying. But generally, we see significant chunks of that happening.
Yeah, and like Deathridge says there, that's good. It's like, make sure you understand things like that. With data will tell you a story, but it's up to you to interpret what that is. Or data will show you a picture and you have to create the story. That's a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may see something, like in this example, right? Deathridge lost 15 followers today. So if you just think about that, then he did a bad job, very bad job.
Mm-hmm.
But he also got 150 new followers, and since he knows that so many of the followers are kind of legacy, it's easy to understand that he didn't have 165 people who said, fuck Deathridge, I hate that guy. Probably the vast majority of those were, deleted somehow or something like that. And that can help you sleep at night.
Or they had even if they are individuals who unfollowed the channel, they're likely ones that had a low activation rate anyway. They're already not part of that group contributing to viewership.
Yeah, those guys suck, is what Jeremy's saying. So Daddy Steve asked a question that is hard. I'd love to know how you can tell what viewers you activate. I think that's a neat stat.
How can you tell which ones they are?
Yeah.
Well, on your own Twitch page now, you can look at a stream summary, and a stream summary will tell you where a lot of your viewers came from. So a lot of people recently have been noticing that Gamepedia is a large access point for Twitch, even for smaller channels, because people that are checking out the game get prompted for the individual game with a stream from that directory and also a promoted stream from the largest stream on Twitch currently. But you can also see clicks that came from Twitter. You can see whether they were just from Twitch or I think it says direct link. I don't do a lot of broadcasting at all on my own channel anymore, so I have to look at other people's to see. But if you look at the stream summary, which is a newer feature that individual channels have on Twitch, you can see that, so you can know where percentages of your viewers are coming from. And I think that's really important, especially if you say, I want to get better at using Twitter to bring people to my channel. Then you can say, you can look at what your percentage of viewers coming from Twitter are and start doing something different, and then a couple weeks later look back and say, you know what? All of this is predicated on having enough viewers for a statistical analysis to be meaningful, though. Because, somebody earlier said, the difference between one viewer and two viewers is 100% change.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're going to build an experiment like that, if you only have one or two viewers and they're coming from Twitter, and now you have 5 viewers and they're all coming from Twitter, yeah, you can say that you did a great job. But if you have 50 viewers and it's a couple viewers change here and there, it may be harder to see the difference. But if you're putting time and effort into figuring out how to better use a discovery path or an activation path, then I think that's where you would look and just compare from when you started doing something different to how things are currently.
Yeah, and one thing to remember too, listen to how smart this guy is. He's saying stuff I don't even understand sometimes. And if this was easy, and just everyone could do it easily, we wouldn't work with him. You know, we would just be like, cool, no, we got all the numbers we need. Like, don't need anyone to help, right? This is hard, and it requires long-term thinking, and it requires careful analysis and guessing and experimentation. You know, a lot of things that we now believe to be facts were hunches. They were guesses originally. We like, I think this is happening. And then, you know, we would look at data and we would keep seeing trends. We would keep seeing these specific things. And then over time, we became pretty confident in them and have, you know, in some cases been able to verify. But, you know, when you have limited amounts of data, it's really difficult to make judgments on it, you know, but what you can do, especially, you know, the smaller you are, the easier it is to conduct experiments. They're much lower risk. If you have one viewer and you do something completely different, you know, you could only lose one viewer. So, you know, even though that's 100% of your audience, like, if you did a good experiment, maybe you would have got 10 viewers for that experiment and you only risked one. So, you know, don't be afraid to change things up. It's something else we're going to talk about a bit later, is, you know, some of the advice that sort of normally is given, sort of Twitch folk wisdom, and, you know, how, like, which parts of that are good and which parts of that, you know, could be re-examined, I would say. Deathridge says, I have a question. I know a lot of streamers don't look at the numbers, both stats and live count, for multiple reasons, mainly affecting their mood. How would you explain to a broadcaster or viewer that paying attention to the numbers is vital? That's a really good question.
Do you want me to answer this completely honestly?
Of course not. No, I don't know. What does that mean?
Long story short, I wouldn't. Like, if someone can only put on a good show if they don't care about their numbers and they're having fun doing what they're doing, then let them have fun doing what they're doing. And if that's what it's about for them, and that's what their success is predicated on, they need to keep doing that. Now, if they're in a position where they are not making the money that they're hoping to make, or that they're trying to use Twitch as their primary livelihood and it's just not working out, well then, if this is your job, you have to look at the numbers. You know, but there are lots of people on Twitch that they just don't have to care. And in the moment, you know, putting on a good show is probably better than stopping and saying, you know, I have 111 viewers, but my goal today was to get 115 viewers. So everybody hold on. I need to just go call a few people because there aren't enough people here in the stream. Yeah. I imagine by the time you get back, you lost more than you brought in.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume none of you people in here are old enough to remember a little TV show called The Flintstones, but there was a very common, you know, it happened about once every 50 episodes, that Fred Flintstone would become like a rock star for some reason. But the thing was that he couldn't sing except in the shower. So in the shower, he was like a freaking brilliant rock star, but the second that he wasn't in the shower, he sucked. So the solution was to put the shower on the stage and let him sing in the shower on the stage. But the reality is that's stupid, and you can never do that. Like, if you're going to be a professional performer, and that's a thing. Maybe you're not. Like, maybe you're not a professional performer right now. If you're going to be a professional performer in almost every other venue, you're going to go out, you're going to see the audience, and sometimes that audience is going to be small. It's like, this theater is half full. Why did I even show up today? But if you can't go out there and do a good show for those people that still paid, you know, to see you, like, they're still here. They want to see it. If you're depressed because, like, you got half as many people as you wanted, then you're going to have a hard time in this industry, because this is performance is a hard industry in general. There's a lot of rejection. And if you're bummed out about stuff like that, then the whole thing is a bummer. Let me tell you.
Along with that, like, the performer or band or street performer analogy is where a lot of our thoughts about Twitch, you know, come from. It's and, you know, once we move into the, like, planning for success part of this show, my thinking really comes from that if you're on Twitch, you're basically a street performer, except your street is Twitch. And, you got to get people to come watch you. And how many people are watching you is a measure of your quality. And people don't like to hear numerical measures of their quality because people internalize that. It's like it's a self-esteem thing, but we have numerical measures. Like if I stretch real tall, I'm 5'10". Like, I'm not pretending that I'm tall. Like it's there are real numbers, and
yeah, and I mean, I think it's important when you're thinking about that the thing that makes Twitch really hard for that reality is that everybody kind of looks equal on Twitch. Your stream is next to Co-Carnage's stream. He's got 15,000 people watching him, and you have 5. Yeah, you look like an asshole, right? Like, if you're looking at the numbers. But, if you think about it as musicians, Metallica is not out on a street corner playing, right? Mm-hmm. Because they've graduated through, they've been doing this for years, they've built that audience, mm-hmm. and because of that, they've transitioned into arenas and, stadiums and things like that. So, temper the fact that your numbers will tell you how good a job you're doing with the fact that just because you don't have 10,000 people watching you today, that's not saying that you're a bad streamer. Like, there may be other things, one of which could be you're not, you haven't done this long enough to accrue those audiences. And, people like Co, they have those, potential followers activated and trained to activate very effectively because they have, the big social followings and things like that. So someone like Co can just tweet the same as me or anybody and say, hey guys, I'm going live right now. And thousands of people just go, oh shit, I'm going there. Mm-hmm. Or with Co, he also has like this dead on schedule, right? Mm-hmm. Every day at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Eastern, he's on. Like, you can set your watch to it. And because of that, that also just converts people on its own. It's like, at 11 o'clock, I'm going to watch the news because that's when the news is on, like those kinds of things are what allow somebody of that size to be that size. So don't beat yourself up too much about this. It's about progress, I would say, more than raw numbers, because you're always going to lose on raw numbers. There's always fucking Ninja. Like, so it's about where were you last month, where are you this month, and where are you going? Cross said something in the chat a bit ago that I thought was good, and is actually something we'll talk about a bit later. He says, I get asked about growth a lot for new streamers. I always tell them to try new things if they're not getting growth after a few weeks or months. It could be as simple as playing a different game. And yeah, we're going to go into that in a lot more detail later, but that's absolutely great advice. Yeah. If you're seeing the same results, you need to change something if you're not happy with the results. If you like the results, keep doing what you're doing because you're winning.
If you're having fun, if you're getting what you want out of the platform, then, good. Then we don't need to have a conversation about how you're going to grow your channel. Maybe people like that would be put off by it. Like, well, we need to figure out how to grow your channel. Man, I just hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm just having a good time. Hey, Lula, how you doing? Nice to see you.
So yeah, we get this question about how do I grow my channel? How do I plan for success? How do I do these things all the time? And I like to frame that kind of in where we talked about, potential and active viewers. So if my goal, let's not talk about those people who just want to play with their friends and, their guild is, together and all 15 of them tune into that stream and they're happy and they want to be there forever. Yep. Let's say I think that I have what it takes to be a top tier live streamer. Like, I think that the next time the Shorty Awards do best live streamer, I think that I have the talent to be that guy. So I don't.
Go on.
I don't. if I think that, and if it's real, there are likely other people who think that too, right? Whether I've ever streamed before. So I start talking about it, I build something up, and if this is really true, and if I really have that ability, I'm then comfortable talking about it. One of the things I say about people making business pitches and like starting a new business is, if your idea is actually good, then you're going to have no problem broadcasting that to the world. Not like on Twitch, but telling everybody that you know that this is what you're doing. So I would say the goal, that if you are starting out and you want to get people on Twitch, just like if it's you have a band that you think is going to make it and you're playing your first show, that you should know who your first 35 to 50 viewers are. So before you even start. So if you and your friends are a band, or you're just singing, and singing is your talent and this is what you want to be your career, you are telling your family, you're telling your friends, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, your first show where you're out there, before there's any other audience from any other advertising, that you're bringing 35 to 50 people because they're just your friends. These are people that see the same thing in you that you see in yourself, and you've been able to communicate that to. And that's the beginning of Twitch, starting a Twitch channel in 2018. In 2013, 2014, there weren't that many channels. You opened up Twitch and you looked, and there were 8 people streaming a game, and you pick the one with the biggest beard or something. Whatever.
What you did, actually.
I think that's
accurate.
what really happened in 2014. And you made friends. But now that if you're getting into this, thinking that you want it to be a real business, you have to start with that mass, because the discovery paths will never favor you, or they don't even favor you at 35 to 50 viewers. But if you're below that, you blend in with the crowd. You're a part of the audience, not a part of the show. And it's a hard thing to talk about, because there are literally thousands of channels out there saying, I have 8, 9, 10, 11 viewers every day. 80% of them are there every day, and I'm going to stream 7 hours every day. And they come every day, and I get home from work, this is what I do, and they show up, and my show is great, and all this. But that prep work, that now you're working, it's like you showed up at the concert venue and you didn't tell anybody that you were putting on a concert. Like, it's like starting work before you let anybody know that you had a business, and then hoping that somehow that materializes into something. But if you have a group of people and you have a little bit of mass like that, 35 to 50 I know is a realistic number, because I built several Twitch channels myself based on building communities and games, and coming up with a reasonable idea, putting on an event. And the first time I turned that channel live, it has 35 to 50 viewers. And then if that's good, then the second or third event gets 100 viewers. And then I'm bored and they're bored, and within a couple weeks, nobody shows up at all, because that's not what I do.
Yoko broke up the band.
Yeah, or whatever. But this is 100% doable. That you can get 35 to 50 people if your idea for your show is good, if you are working with the right people, or are involved in the right community, and if all of those things are true, then you should have no problem talking about it and spreading the word, and there should be 35 to 50 people willing to show up the first time you turn your channel live.
Yeah. And I mean, we constantly use the analogy of musicians because it just works everywhere. And I think that this idea is really well expressed. Like if you've ever started like a band with your friends or something, and you're like, well, yeah, we're obviously as good as Metallica, but nobody knows us yet. So we got to go to the local bar. We got to get the local bar to let us play Friday night, you know? And so you go in, you talk to the guy, you know, the manager or whatever. You're like, yeah, you know, we're a band. We're, you know, Satan's asshole, and we want to play, you know, our
You know that band.
Is that a real band?
No.
Well, it will be soon. Jeremy and I are starting it. You know, it's like, we're this band, we're awesome, whatever. The guy goes, okay, well, how many people are you going to bring? You know, it's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, how many tickets can you sell? Mm-hmm. Because that space is worth something to him. You know, he knows, like, he could get a, you know, better band than Satan's Asshole to show up and bring 30, 40, 100 people, whatever it is, that are just interested in what they're doing. So if you can go in and you can convince that guy's like, yeah, you know, I'm going to be able to bring in this many people. Look, the Facebook page says this many people are attending. You know, look at this amount of money I have. These are for the tickets I've already sold or whatever. You know, then that guy goes, huh. Well, you may have something here. I don't really know what it is. I haven't heard you play yet, but you know, you clearly have done the work. And I agree. I think it's a really good point that the environment today is much different than it was a few years ago. And remember, when you're talking to big streamers now, and no offense to them, they got big in a different time. Like, they wouldn't have to think this way because, you know, the way that it worked then, like if you talk to Elohim, you know, he characterizes how he got successful on Twitch is, I just flipped it on and there were 1,000 people watching me and they're like, what's up with your beard?
Yeah.
You know, and can you imagine like that today? Like it's almost an insane idea that you could just flip on Twitch and suddenly go from 0 to 1,000 viewers. So we're now operating in a very different environment. It requires different rules and more sophistication. The more challenging and competitive a space becomes, the more it rewards people that are organized and have prep work and, you know, are doing this behind the scenes stuff. Because yeah, if Jeremy does all that work and he knows when he flips his stream on he's going to get 35 people, I do none of it and I flip my stream on and I get 2, he's way higher in the directory. So he's already beat me, right? He's already ahead of the game. And so thinking that way is important. Another way to look at it that is horribly depressing is if you can't convince, you know, your friends and people that you like to come, you know, watch your show, right? Like, I've gone to see a lot of bands that I had no interest in because I knew somebody was in the band, right? Like, we've all done that. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll come to your show. It's $5, sure. You know, you put me on the list, of course, you know, I'll be there, right? But that's super important to them. They need those people there to get the crowd excited and that sort of thing. So if you're able to do that prep work, then you're way ahead of the curve of the average person who just goes, well, I'm as funny as Dr. Disrespect. I have a computer, I'm going to turn it on and everyone will see, you know, like, so I think, yeah, it's a really good point. It's there's a lot of tough love on this episode of Office Hours.
I like numbers more than I like people, so I'm happy to talk about these kinds of things forever. But I want to take this even further and say that, so if we're planning to grow, let's say, you know, we have viewers. We're a stream, we've got a partner channel, you know, we've got more than 100 viewers, let's say. You know, I think that setting reasonable goals is important too. And that now we know that different types of channels have different thresholds. And I'm going to go back towards like the band idea. So you're this band that, you know, you've built up this following of 100 people that come to all of your shows, and everybody knows that when they go to the show, they get to have a drink with you after, and they get to chat with you personally, and you go and you shake everybody's hand, and everybody feels like a part of the whole experience. There are thousands of Twitch channels exactly like that. They can't do anything but that because the expectation is that as part of the show, there's a personal connection, right? That Like here we're talking, we see everybody's name that comes in chat, and we have the time. We can talk to every single person who comes in chat. But if that's what your channel is, setting a growth expectation for that channel to say, I really want to have 800 to 1,000 viewers, it doesn't make sense, right? If what you want to do on Twitch is have that kind of super interactive, personally interactive channel, what is my threshold? And we see 180 to 200 kind of being that threshold, and it's a little higher when communities evolve around the streamer, so like really active Discord channels where people are hanging out with each other in the chat, not necessarily with the streamer, and that's part of like the breaking out of that. Like if you want to be a 1,000 viewer channel, you can still be interactive by responding to the sentiment of chat. Now you can still show that like in your peripheral vision that your subconscious is absorbing what's happening in chat, and you have an idea of what's going on, and you know your mods are highlighted, so they're making sure that you're getting the key points of that. That it can be really hard to, whether the numbers are right specifically there. We see that like 180 to 200 is where like really interactive personally interactive channels tend to cap out, but thinking about where you want to be and designing content around how you want that to be. Because if you're the band and people come to see your band because they get to hang out with you after the show and they get to have a drink with you and you shake their hand every single day, there's a limit to that too. There's a jump between that and, you know, you're playing an arena.
Yep. Yeah, because if you're David Bowie, well, he's dead, but if you were David Bowie and you've got 50,000, 100,000 people watching you, even if you want to go out there and have a drink and shake every hand, like you don't have all night and you can't drink that much, you will die. And yeah, it's a really important thing. And when you say personally interactive, I want to just call attention to that because I don't think it's a term that everybody understands. What Jeremy means is the people who are like building a relationship with the people in chat, you know, where it's like, we're all hanging out, we're friends, you know, Lula, you know, come over to my house, like, let's hang out, let's all play games after this. Like that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Not being interactive with the chat in general.
Yeah.
Right? Like bigger channels, being interactive is very useful. But people who build their channels specifically about developing relationships with people, you know, it's just like how many friends can you keep up with in your real life? Like, there's only 7 days a week. So even if you're going out to breakfast, lunch, and dinner with somebody, that's 21 people you could see every week if that was your goal. So, you know, thinking about how that scales and how you stay relevant and interactive and, you know, can still say hi to people, but, you know, aren't dedicated. It's like, guys, Fo just came in and it's awesome to see you, Fo. And like, let's talk about your life today. And, you know, I want to know everything that happened. You know, like there's only so many times you can do that. And guys, if you don't know Fo, he's one of our clients. He's an awesome dude. Streams a lot of RuneScape. Is just fantastic. So toss him a follow. RuneScape's doing a lot of cool stuff this year. So I think it's going to be more and more relevant. But yeah, I mean, that's the main thing there, right? There were several really good questions in the chat, but one of them was, in prepping beforehand when reaching out to people, do you target 10 people and build rapport, or do you focus on sending your stream to as many people on Twitter as possible? And I think so. There's two parts to this really. The first one is when we're talking about finding 10 people, 30 people. These should be people you already know. You're not trying to go out and recruit like 10 new fans, right? Think about when you were in like middle school or whatever, and you know, it's like fundraising season. They're like, you gotta sell these chocolate bars, kid. Like, go sell these chocolate bars so we can, you know, go to wherever.
You went to your aunt and your next door neighbor and, you know.
You went to literally people you know and said, look, I'm really sad. I gotta sell these chocolate bars so I can, you know, go on the trip or win a bike or whatever it is that we're trying to do. You know, and to some extent, like, those people are pitying you or they like you or, you know, whatever it is, right? There's a relationship there and you're leveraging it, and there's nothing wrong with this. Like, you're asking them for a favor, and they say, yeah, sure, I'll take 5 candy bars, right? But then once you've exhausted that group of people and you've sold as many candy bars as you can, then you go knock on the neighbor's doors, right? Because at least you live in the neighborhood. It's like, look, my tooth fell out. Like, buy some candy bars, please. I'm going to die. Like, that kind of thing. And then once you run out of those people, like, you're basically on the street, like, trying to stop cars and stuff like that, because that's who's left. So when we're talking about those 10, like, engaging with those people, that's like selling those candy bars. Like, ask your dad. Like, ask your mom. Like, have them come in, man. It's fun when your mom's in a channel. Like, it's, it's like weird, and I don't know, it's always weird when my mom's watching me. Hi, Mom. But, focusing on real world people. Like, one of the things when Facebook started the streaming that we noticed was like, oh, well, it's an interesting platform for streaming because you've already got your first, like, 100 or 200 potential viewers. They're your Facebook friends. They're already going to see your stuff. So, unlike trying to start a brand new streaming channel where you have a Twitter following of 0, you have a Twitch following of 0, and you've really got to build it, you can work on your personal relationships to get some people to come in. And, ultimately, those 20 or 30 people are not going to pay the bills, but they fill the room out, they make the room more interesting and lively, and then they entice the other people to stay. Yeah. And then, well, we got, about 30 more minutes. So we got a fair amount of stuff to get through still.
Well, you said there were a couple more questions there. Otherwise, I can just respond to this last question in chat.
Well, so there was one that was, it was about people. It wasn't really a question as much as, yeah, I totally work with people that are too small. They need more viewers, not better tech, right? Like, this is an important concept, right? Like, I think a lot of people, when they think about how to improve on Twitch, they think about improving their equipment and their presentation and their performance, which is a lot like saying, I suck at playing guitar, so I'm going to buy a $3,000 guitar, and that's going to make me better. Yes, I will have a better guitar, but, what can I do with it? Like, focusing on audience is the primary driver of your success on Twitch. It's what's going to get you where you want to go. If you have an hour to invest and your choices are, assuming you have a functional stream, that's fine. Like, you have an hour to build new graphics, or you have an hour to post on Reddit and forums in places where people will see your stream, it's probably better to talk about your stream. Don't be spammy or anything, but there are plenty of ways, and like Ko's talked about this, a bunch of streamers have talked about it. Like, if you like a game, go participate in that community, become part of that community, stream that game, and then it'll just come up. Like, you'll post an answer to a question, and then someone's like, hey, aren't you that streamer? Like, I was playing that game Summoner's War the other day, and I saw Chanman V in one of the things that, one of the teams we're fighting. I'm like, whoa, that's Chanman. Like, I know that guy. Like, and that just starts to happen, because you're there and you're around. And focusing on that, it's like the difference between, do we go practice, our instruments, or do we go hand out flyers to the show? Well, if your goal is to get people to go to the show, then you better hand out the flyers, because you could be the best band in the world, and if no one's listening, it doesn't really matter. All right, what's the next thing on here?
Oh,
let's do
I
that.
gotta respond just to carry on with that. Real carbon-based. I just said, he's interesting to know how the guy on the left, I assume I'm on the left. I feel like I'm on the right.
I feel like I'm on the left.
He's on the left.
I'm going to answer your question badly. Go.
Okay.
What's your question?
How get a guaranteed 35 to 50 viewers for an event? Well, I wouldn't even start building something on Twitch unless I felt like there was an audience for it. So, and I would think about what is an underserved community. One of the specific examples that I did was some tournaments for Atlas Reactor. It wasn't the biggest game. There wasn't a huge following of the game, but there were hundreds of people in the Discord, and there were a whole bunch of people that wanted to be able to guarantee that they're playing against the best other players, wanted to have a competitive environment. I put in a lot of time setting up setting up a league that people could play the game in, and then I actually recruited people to shoutcast the shows. I mean, it wasn't like I just had friends that I brought in. It was like I had actively targeted an underserved audience, and Twitch was just kind of useful for what I was doing. And now on Twitch, because it's so crowded and there's so much of very similar content, that either you already know people and you're well known as part of a community, or that you need to identify what about that community is underserved, and then it won't feel like you're spamming, hey, come to my stream, because you're offering something, right? You're satisfying a need. And for every game, I guarantee that there is a need for something. There is an unsatisfied portion of the Fortnite audience. I don't know what it is because I'm not into Fortnite, but if you take the time to really dive into the community, so what are people talking about on Reddit? What are the best, everyday streamers not doing? And is there anything on that list that kind of makes sense as something fun that people will want to get involved with and watch? So that's my thinking, and that's my planning and preparation. But I'm never trying to be like the biggest streamer in the world. There's something fun and interesting that I want to do, and it's underserved. And okay, well, Twitch is a good tool for doing something fun. Let's go do it.
Yeah. Hey, Wolves, how you doing, man? And yeah, I mean, again, I think, well, so one thing I thought about when you were explaining that is that it's not just about you. Like, a stream can feel very centered on you because you're the broadcaster. But like, if I'm planning a party, for example, or I'm trying to get people to go to a concert, I look at my friends list and I say, okay, I'm trying to get 50 people here. Well, why don't I call Jeremy? Because I know Jeremy's married and he has like a brother who really likes music like this. So that's probably 3 people. Because I can say, Jeremy, are you in? And then he'll be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do your thing. And I was like, can you bring the other folks? And and it's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, okay, well, good. So he's down for 3. So doing collaborative stuff, that works really well when you're small, because you can look at another audience, or you can look at somebody, and they may have 3 or 4 friends, it may not be a massive amount of people. You get them involved some way, it's like, yeah, you could be a moderator on my channel, like, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, who can I bring into the channel now, right? Like, and then each piece of that, you're assembling this group. It's not, you're not just going out, it's like, man, I hope I have 30 cousins who will all watch me stream, right? Like, you can build on groups, and I think that's what, like, the stuff you did on Landmark and on Atlas Reactor were both very effective, because it wasn't that, it was one person that you're talking to. They go, oh, cool. And they tell 3 people, 5 people, whatever. You get enough of those people together, now you got a thing, But yeah, it's a really good idea. Look for something that's underserved. Look for something that you can offer, right? That's going to be different. And when you tell it to people, they go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I want to do that, or yeah, I want to watch that. And if they do, now you got a guy. It's like, hey, well, I'm going to do it at 4 o'clock. Like, are you in? And
you talk about what you're going to do, and then you slip in, well, come to my stream at this time, and well, that's what we're doing. I think that it's hard because we, as a community around Twitch, have trained people to just be like, tell everybody you're going live, to the point where Reddit, like subreddits, just ban people from doing that at all. Game Discord channels have like one little area that's constantly spammed of, I'm streaming on Twitch, I'm streaming on Twitch, I'm streaming on Twitch. But if you start talking and say, hey, we're going to do this really awesome stuff, you don't have to say where or how people get involved at the beginning. And then the fact that you're bringing them into a Twitch channel, this only for that first group. Like, that's the start, not like I'm an established stream and I'm trying to build momentum. But you know, if what you're doing is cool or fun or something that other people wish they could be watching, letting them know that it's happening is never going to feel oppressive and salesy or spammy or anything. It's just, you're just telling people you're going to do something fun, like have a party. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, special events seem good. Yeah, it's an interesting point, Xanatax. Like, charity streams equal no money, so you send it to a good cause, it grows viewers. But, you know, it's also difficult. Like, a charity stream is a good idea. It's a nice thing to do. We like charity. Blah, 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 charity, right? No. I mean, it is a very good thing to do. And, you know, a lot of our clients work with, like, St. Jude and other organizations to raise money. But that by itself, like, how much different from your normal stream is your charity stream going to be? Are you, you know, shaving your head and eating hot peppers? And now that will bring people in. But that would bring people in regardless of charity, right? Like, if your stream is now just, well, you know, they're going to throw darts at me and I'm going to see, well, yeah, don't do that, by the way. But, you know, that's, like, fucked up. Like, people want to see that. So, you know, people will go out of curiosity because you're doing something kind of different and interesting. And it's important to think about that more than, you know, if every day what you're doing is just streaming a game and there's 5,000 other people that are just streaming that game, it's going to be very difficult to differentiate yourself from those people.
And the Guardian Con stream was done very well, in part because with Professor Broman and T-Rex, who were putting a lot of the effort in getting the streamers involved, they were clear about, like, we want to know what your incentives are, we want to know what you're going to be doing differently. Like, this is a really big thing. We've got the biggest names on Twitch involved in this. This is, like, we're making a statement, and there are things that you have to do to be on board. And they were not only training people who are coming in to help on how to do it really well and how to do fun stuff, but educating, like demonstrating that they have that knowledge and sharing it with the community. That, you know, they're doing it on a channel that they did that event on a channel that doesn't have everyday viewers. They didn't say, we're going to do this on a channel that has 1 million followers already. Say, we're going to use the Guardian Con channel, and we're going to put time and effort in. We're going to bring names that people will follow, and we're going to do it there. Where it takes lots of planning to do that successfully. Like, Dropped Frames is one of the most popular talk shows on Twitch, but that was kind of built on top of JP's channel, right? Where he brought in other people, but it used existing momentum.
Yeah. They used all their channels,
yeah,
because it used to rotate between, you know, Co and Zeke and everybody. And it's a good point. You know, we see a lot of times when companies want to go, you know, have you stream on their channel, and their channels are really inactive. But Guardian Con, by doing something so specifically useful and interesting, was able to capture, you know, like there were like 400,000 people at one point watching, you know, during the Warframe stuff. Well, I guess most of that was on the Warframe channel, but
yeah,
you know, it was still like tied in. You know, there were hundreds of thousands of people watching and millions of people over the course of the marathon, and you know, that comes from, yeah, that challenge. You know, somebody like Dr. Lupo or Ninja, who, you know, it's like, what, I can do whatever I want on Twitch. I'm, you know, big and successful. And to say, no, like, you're gonna come here and you're gonna do stuff for the kids. Like, you're gonna, you know, do weird shit. And to see them do it, right? That was the novelty. It's like, it's not just Dr. Lupo's regular stream. You know, he's gonna do some weird shit if he raises $100,000. And I can't remember offhand what he did, but he did some weird stuff. A few of them did, right?
I didn't catch that segment, but there's a lot of hair dyeing.
Well, I ran into a smaller streamer named Blessius, who was at Guardian Con, and he had raised a very good amount of money for his size. And man, his head was shaved, his like eyebrows were shaved, like he's like all screwed up from all, you know, all the different things he did. But right, like that activates people. So, you know, works really well. Hey, the Shark, how are you? Guys, if you don't know, this guy Charsky, Alex Charsky is he's an old friend of mine. We used to work together. He works at Blizzard now. He works on Hearthstone, so you can complain about all the Hearthstone things you want to him, and he will ignore you. I'm just kidding. I hope you're doing well, man.
Well, yeah, that Guardian Con stream is like the example is the extreme of, hey, we're going to start up a channel, and for them, because they're big involved in Twitch and everything, their friends that they were getting to come to the party were the biggest streamers on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So where you're saying, like, you invite me and then you count my wife, like, they invite Ninja and they count 100,000 extra people.
Yep.
But they had that connection, you know, and not everybody has that connection to start with. But both of those examples are equally valid. It's just a different scale of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, but you know, as a small streamer, and I can tell you this from our clients, small streamers hit up people like Co and Anthony and Grims every day, and just, you know, they write really nice, thoughtful emails a lot of times to say, you know, it's like, hey, I'm a fan of your channel, you know, you're an inspiration to me in a lot of ways, and I really like what you're doing, you know, I would love to collaborate with you in some way, that sort of thing. And, you know, unfortunately, like, most of those emails are going to go unanswered. Not that it's a bad idea to try, but, you know, like, part of it is scale. The reason that, you know, people like Professor Broman and King Gathalion can get Ninja to come to the event are because, like, they are also big streamers. They have these long-standing relationships. Again, it's, you know, if you're Co-Carnage, you're Metallica selling out a stadium, that's way different than, you know, starting out a week ago. And you can't judge yourself as a smaller or a newer streamer by, you know, someone who's been doing this for years and is massively successful. Judge yourself in 5 years, maybe, like, and say, well, where am I relative to where Co was at that point in his career? But even then, you know, there's so much that goes into this.
And where you just mentioned, like, in 5 years, judge yourself like that, I think one of the things that we miss, because there isn't a lot of meaningful advice for how to grow, because the entire environment has changed so much in the last 5 years, right? We're just starting to get to the point where we could maybe call Twitch a mature platform. Not in the sense of the people on Twitch being mature, but but that it's reached it's grown up as a platform itself. And we mentioned earlier, like, Elohim doesn't have a lot of experience about how to get a small channel growing. When he started, things were new, and he naturally fell into a slot that worked perfectly. Playing Neverwinter with a Beard was obviously an underserved market. But what we hear when larger streamers, especially a lot of established streamers, are giving advice to people is, you know, just be consistent, just you know,
keep doing
what you're doing. And right now, the only thing that we know that matters, that's real, is that if your channel isn't growing, you need to change something. Mm-hmm. And we've gone over quite a few things today that you may want to look at numbers-wise. That this is an area of my activation pipeline where it seems like I have a deficiency. I saw that on my stream summary that, you know, I tweeted that I went live and 0 people came to my stream from Twitter. Well, you know, maybe it's just that I don't have a lot of followers, or maybe I'm not in the right circles, you know. Then maybe developing your Twitter interacting with people on Twitter, getting more involved with people that like the games that you like on Twitter, and then you're reaching more people with that. So you can find that out. Maybe it is you're not playing the right game, because every day you show up and you play Fortnite with 12 viewers because you love playing Fortnite and that's your game, but you're so far down in the directory that there are 300 people with more than 10 viewers, over you, and like 8,000 unique Fortnite streams would hit 10 viewers or more every single day, then you're a guy in the crowd, or maybe you're not doing the right thing. There's always some small change, and it takes introspection and being critical and looking at those numbers to see where is my viewer pipeline failing. I want people coming to my stream. Where am I getting them from? Where am I not getting them from? What am I relying on? And if I'm relying on these things, what are the assumptions that I need to satisfy? Or what is the baseline? That if I'm hoping that I'm playing a game that I'm going to get viewers coming in through the game directory on Twitch, and then I need to make sure that I'm, in that top row. Or maybe top 2 rows. I need to make sure I'm one of the top 8 streams in that directory, or that part of the pipeline isn't even valid, right? That I haven't met the basic requirement to value that as an activation path. And like I said with Twitter, if nobody's clicking on my tweets, then how do I change that? If you are seeing that 0 people come to your stream from Gamepedia, there's probably something wrong, right? Lots of people get to Twitch via Gamepedia now. And games like Conan Exiles, Sea of Thieves, games that haven't even launched yet. So like if you just want to talk about games, being in that directory, it'll create an additional path.
It's a pretty solid joke there.
Bring
your wife.
I'll be on a plane tomorrow. I'll be flying back to my wife, and then I will be sleeping. But yeah, like Daddy Steve said, the Forest exposed him to Gamepedia. Well, Gamepedia is a huge website, and I first met the guys from Gamepedia in 2014 or so. And they marketed super heavily. Their parties are fantastic because they want game developers to, funnel people through their website every time they want information about the game. And then, because Curse is zoned by Twitch, they're funneling people into Twitch. And there are lots and lots of games out there. So maybe that have Gamepedia pages that have a link going that way, and maybe nobody is playing them, and maybe you haven't connected with the Discord for that game yet. Maybe you're not an active part of the Reddit, but if nobody is playing that game and they have a Gamepedia page, and you see on Steam that there are 1,000 people playing this game at any time, and it's the kind of game that you might want to look something up, then you're opening up an activation, a viewership path that may have been unavailable for you before.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just mentioned a whole bunch of data sources that I hadn't talked about.
No, but I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that one of the biggest things, it was like Albert Einstein that said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I think that advice is really good for Twitch, because when you hear people say, and the advice that streamers give, the kind of folk wisdom of it, I don't want to beat up on it too much, because I think it comes from a good place. I think it's just that they're not quite saying what they mean to say, and what they mean to say is good. And what that is there are things you need to do that are the same, which are be consistent, set schedules, communicate well. Like, you need the fundamentals of a good business around your stream if you want it to be a business. Like, if OP Group opened its doors for work every day at a different random time. Like, none of the employees could get in until I show up and with the key to open the door. And I may show up anytime between like 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Like, that's a horrible place to work. It's like Jamar is standing outside like for hours, like, and if he's not there at 8, I yell at him because it's like, well, I was here at 8.
I was standing outside for an hour this morning. It was my fault.
But yeah, I mean, the fundamentals of having a good stream are discipline and, working hard. And I think that's sort of the message people are trying to say. Keep doing what you're doing is where it gets a little, sort of blindly encouraging or, to me, kind of wrong, right? Because, like, keep doing what you're doing works great if you're Co, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Co's super happy with what he's doing. He's growing. If everything is great and all the numbers look the way you want, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're finding difficulty, and normally when people are asking for this advice, right, they're finding difficulty in growing and finding their audience and things like that. Keep doing what you're doing that's what got you to the problem. Like, you need to do something else, like whatever that is, switching games, doing some research, looking at the resources, like where your viewers are coming from, asking your mom to show up, asking your mom to tell her bingo night about it. I don't know what's wrong with your mom, but she sounds like a nice lady. Whatever it is, right? Like, if you're finding that you're stagnating, if you're finding you don't, you can't get where you want to go, you need to change things. And that's hard because then the next questions can be, well, what do I change? And, for everybody, it's like, well, I don't know you, man. Like, it could be anything. Bring his wife. Yeah. I'll tell your mom to bring her wife. But that's the thing, is like this whole concept, this whole business, it's new. When we talk about the old days being 2014, 2013, like, this is like, 10 years ago when you had, man, you really need a better username. Since you asked a legitimate question, but it's Rando Asshat on Twitter is asking, if you go back like 10 or 15 years ago, you would see these job postings in San Francisco. It's like, we need a vice president of marketing for mobile games, must have 18 months experience with mobile games. And it's like, to be the senior vice president of a company in any industry that exists for any amount of time, you would need like 20 years of experience. Like, that's a very important job. And the mobile game industry was so new, 18 months was 20 years, right? Like, people that have been around streaming since 2012, 2014, like, they've been around forever. Like, this thing is changing so fast, we don't know where it's going. Like, it's gonna be drastically different a year from now. And part of that means that the advice you get from other people has limited value. You need to look at data, you need to look at the information you have and the feedback you're getting, and make educated guesses based on it to experiment and see what works. Because that's what the guys that are succeeding are doing. Like, they are trying different things, trying different methodologies of what makes their stream work, and when they find one that works, they stick with it until it stops working. And again, watching, it's like we were talking about, when your stream starts to dip because maybe you're tired or whatever it is, like, you need to be able to see that and recognize, like, okay, there's a reason office hours is not 6 hours long. It's because we feel like 2 hours, we can do a good show, we can talk through a bunch of stuff. Maybe we even, like, gosh, we didn't get to everything. But if it was like, okay, hour 19, does anybody have any questions? Can anyone bring me some coffee, right? Like, who's gonna watch that? And that's the thing, right? Is understanding when you're hitting your peaks, when you're hitting your valleys, when you need to change and when you don't. And it's very hard.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. This Rando Asshat does have a reasonable question.
All right, let's see.
So it says, isn't the reality of streaming or any other creative or entertainment pursuit that it's simply a lottery career, even if they had the best management team behind them, or they simply need to know if they have a personality to be a hit or not? Like, success in music is 5% of the stuff you're talking about, and 95% is simply putting your work out to see if it's a hit. I think that on Twitch, it still is a little bit like that, but for other industries, that things have been figured out pretty well. Like, there's a reason that every Disney child star, you know, makes them a whole lot of money, right? They figured it out. They have a system. They have experts seeking the talent. And if we bring in like sports to it, that people that have talent and are doing the right things end up rising to the top unless they do something silly and burn out. That there is a level of there are always going to be great people out there that just never get discovered, but I think that it's a little bit of a myth that that's a high percentage. One of the things Omid actually said to me once, and we were talking about this, like, how do you get discovered? Like, it's like I mentioned, like, well, what if you're a superstar basketball player and you're just like, you play outside in front of your house? It's like, well, you get discovered, right? If LeBron James is playing basketball on the street, somebody sees that he is awesome, and just by playing, and that we're talking about a type of industry now where the group at the top is small, that the people who are going to get there are going to get there. There are going to be plenty of people capable of getting there that never start. But, no, like I said, if you think that you're going to be a great Twitch streamer, and you think that that's your talent, and you think that there are probably other people that think that too. If you want to be an actor or an actress, you can think that all you want, but you audition for a role, right? People judge you. You're trying to convince people that you're great. On Twitch, yes, you get some people to show up, and then you put yourself out there because you don't have to audition to be allowed onto the set.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good question. I would push back on some of the stuff that's in here. You know, Rando goes on to say, aren't there like 100 working actors for every A-lister? No, there's like 10,000.
Yeah.
Like there's like 100,000. You know, the numbers that we're talking about for success are way lower. Like it's super hard to succeed at these things. And the thing is, when you go to like an NBA court, you go watch a movie, like you go watch anything that's like a pinnacle of what it is, you don't see a lot of people there that out and out suck. Like, and that's the thing, is it's not a lottery, right? There is some luck involved. There's always luck involved in everything you do in life. But, you know, like, look, I am not a good actor, okay? So I don't have a 5% chance of going to an audition and getting the part, right? I have a 0% chance, or a 0.0001% chance that maybe the guy is like really high, and I look like his dead father or something, and he casts me. Like, that's the only chance I have because I suck at that thing, And so this is another hard reality of Twitch. It's camouflaged by the fact that anyone who has the equipment can turn on a stream, just like anyone who has a guitar can go to the street corner and play it. That does not mean that you're good at guitar. It doesn't mean that you are a good streamer, or even that you could be a good streamer, right? Some people don't have the talent or the aptitude for certain activities, right? I could not do Jeremy's job, for example. There's no chance. I could never get hired for it. I would go in and they would ask me some questions and I would start crying. If I'm lucky, that's all I would do. And they wouldn't hire me because they'd be like, well, who's this asshole? Why does he think he can do this? And the same is true for all of these. The egalitarian nature of Twitch makes it feel different, but we see the people at the top, and whether or not you like Ninja or Dr. Disrespect or Co or whoever, you can't deny that they're talented, that they're passionate, that they work hard, and that they deserve success. Like, they are very talented entertainers, and the same can be said of Brad Pitt or LeBron James. You can be critical or say maybe he's not whatever, but you can't deny the fact that these people are good at what they do. And that filters out, like Jeremy was saying, things like the Disney system that exists, where you look at the Mouseketeers and all that crap, and the pipeline of legitimate A-list celebrities that they found when they were like 4 years old or whatever, And by the time they're 20, they're Britney Spears, or by the time they're 16, they're Britney Spears, or Justin Timberlake, or whoever was in there. Tells you that there is talent, there's skill involved, not only in being those people, but also in recognizing them and then giving them the platforms. Twitch, if you go back a few years ago, there wasn't anyone thinking about that, right? Like, I started this company 4 years ago, and when I did, I started it as a hobby, as something I thought would be good to help Co-Carnage and Elohim not get exploited, not get taken advantage of, because I was working at game companies and I saw how easy it is to exploit them. But I never thought, that there would be enough money that we could afford to hire someone like Jeremy and, everybody else that we have and have an office and all this stuff. That exists because more and more people are recognizing the value of streamers and they're paying more for it. And as they pay more for it, the industry itself becomes more sophisticated because, when somebody's paying you $5 to do something, you don't really need to get a lawyer involved, right? Because screw you out of it, it's like $5. But when it's $50,000 or $1 million or whatever, some of these crazy numbers that get thrown around sometimes, you have to have a lawyer, and you got to pay that lawyer thousands of dollars to look at those contracts, because if you don't, you may do all this work and get nothing. And that level of sophistication grows over time. So if you're a starting out actor, right, and you're trying to get into the Mouseketeers or whatever it is, you don't need a manager and an agent and a lawyer and a PR team and all this stuff, because you're just a kid right now. You need to go through the process and show people what you can do, and people say, that's a thing I want. That's something I can sell. That's something that you could be a star. And there are people in all industries that are good at that, and we're getting good at that in this part of the industry. And that's all new and fascinating and interesting to us. But yeah, it's also pretty frustrating, right? Because this isn't just random. Elohim says, yeah, I flipped on my stream and got 1,000 people, but part of that is Elo's personality. Elo's one of the funniest people you'll ever see. I went into his channel, anytime I go into his channel, 5 seconds that I'm laughing. I don't know how he does it. He's always pooping or whatever. It's so weird, but it's always funny.
But he's also the guy that if you sit down next to him, no matter who you are, you could probably talk to him for the rest of the day.
Yep.
It's not like he's, as a job, a good streamer. He is that. He has these abilities. That he has the natural talent that can be translated into job skills for streaming. I would challenge anybody to, if you had time and the ability to sit down next to Elohim, I guarantee you could talk to him for the rest of the day. Somehow someone has to find a reason to stop the conversation, because he's that interesting, that funny, and that good at just talking.
He fed me a graham cracker last time I talked to him. Literally just pulls graham crackers out, because he's a daughter, so, and it's I want a graham cracker. He's here. It's how does, anyway. Yeah, it's just fascinating stuff, and we can talk about this all day. We have hit the end of our show, so I want to thank Jeremy for being here. We'll have to do this again sometime before too long. Graham Crapper, that was very unfortunate. Thank you guys all for being here. We really appreciate it. It's a really good show. If you're not following us, please hit the follow button. We'll be back next week, 2 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel. You can also find us on what's that called, Twitter, is OP_group. We answer questions there all the time, so if you have questions even between shows, feel free to just ping us. And if you use the hashtag AskOPG, we'll try to answer it on the next show. So yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Deathridge. Thanks, Foe. Thank you, Diction. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And have a great rest of your weekend. And we're going to start ours soon.
We're going to raid Cobalt.
We're going to raid Cobalt. Streak, because that's his whole name.
Cobalt Streak.
I don't know why we're doing it. Jamar just yelled at me. So we're going to raid Cobalt Streak. And Cobalt Streak is a fantastic, live streamer. And a really just awesome dude. Speaking of people that are just incredibly funny, dude is unreal funny. So let's go say hi to him. Have a great weekend, everybody.
I think it worked.
It says rated up there.
Okay, cool.